Kia ora, welcome to this episode of The Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author, Austenite life coach. My co-host is Emma Dunning, middle-aged electric bike enthusiast. She's also an author, just saying. And she likes Jane Austen, or she wouldn't be here. We are discussing Chapter 7 of Sense and Sensibility. The Dashwoods dine at Barton Park and meet Mrs. Jennings and Colonel Brandon. Is it a bit late to be meeting characters that are going to be so important to the story?
Chapter 7? No. If we're talking in modern novel terms, we would be a bit surprised this far through the novel. What are we about? Quarter of the way?
No, there's 55 chapters,
Okay.
I think. Oh no, wait, 50.
This is not too late. It's a fairly slow rolling setup for us to this place.
Austen's not about the big fast things. This is just regular life.
Yeah, this is how life works. Everyone doesn't appear at the same time. We do meet important characters quite quickly here. So we find out the characters of Sir John and Lady Middleton, and Lady Middleton's mother, Mrs. Jennings, and Sir John Middleton's friend, Colonel Brandon, all in this chapter, all at a dinner party.
There is the best line to describe this group of people. Colonel Brandon, the friend of Sir John, seemed no more adapted by resemblance of manner to be his friend than Lady Middleton was to be his wife, or Mrs. Jennings to be Lady Middleton's mother. Because we're standing here going, how is this weird group of people connected to each other? They're so different.
Beautiful, very Austen-esque line about the couple, Sir John and Lady Middleton, who live at Barton Park and own Barton Cottage where the Dashwoods will be living. They strongly resembled each other in that total want of talent and taste which confined their employments within a very narrow compass. Sir John was a sportsman, Lady Middleton a mother. Very few words to describe perfectly these two characters, and if you hold that in your mind, know them for the rest of the novel.
They're kind of caricatures of what you expect rich people to be like. They've got nothing going on. Sir John's all about the hunting, and Lady Middleton really has nothing going on, so just looks after the kids. However, we must bear in mind that when it talks about her being a mother, she is not a mother in the modern sense, because she will have nursery maids and governesses and all of that. She will not be with her kids all the time, and she will not be the one doing the majority of their care.
They're her only interest. Talking about them, playing at being a mother, really.
You take the children on trips, like when they go to Barton Cottage, and they come in after dinner, and this is when she sees her children. It seems so out of context with the rest of her character because she's so elegant that she's got these kids tearing at her clothes and yelling and being noisy. But that's what she wants.
Well, I think Jane Austen doesn't approve of unruly children.
Oh no, she has a great line about this later in the novel. Eleanor says something like, when I consider Barton Park, I never think of well-managed children with any abhorrence. That was not a direct quote.
So I think Lady Middleton likes the idea of talking about her children and having children, but she certainly doesn't have any, I was going to say control over her children, but maybe we don't want to control our children, but she has no
authority?
Authority. Thank you. She has no authority over her children. There are no boundaries. Her children don't respect her, I would imagine. We don't see anything from the children's point of view, but their behaviour would suggest that they can do anything they want and be praised for it.
They are still very young. They're all under 6 or 6 and younger, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't know at least a little bit how to behave. I wonder if Lady Middleton is akin to Lady Bertram, who likes to sit dressed prettily on a sofa.
Yes, there is an indication of that a little later in the novel, that she is very indolent and ashamed of being indolent.
Only when others around her are busy. If it's just her or people who aren't busy, she's fine. But because Marianne and Eleanor are always busy doing something, she feels like she will be judged.
And we are.
We are judging her.
Look at us judging her now.
She's doing her job. She's doing what she was raised to do. She's being an elegant woman to a nice husband and a mother.
We also have a cracking implication about Sir John's reason for inviting Mrs. Dashwood and her 2 daughters to stay at Barton Cottage. He wants female tenants because they won't shoot his game. Did you spot that?
Yes.
So his manor, it's an old term for his estate, and it specifically relates to the game on his land. In fact, there's a reference to your manor in Pride and Prejudice. When you've shot all the birds on your own, I can't remember the word for Mr. Bingley's manor, you must come and shoot on Mr. Bennet's manor. She uses the word manor. So if Sir John Middleton had tenants in Barton Cottage of the right class to be shooting, he would have to invite them to shoot on his manor, and he wants to keep all the birds, or maybe deer, for himself. That's why he wants female tenants.
He would not be required to offer them the opportunity to go shooting. However, being who he is, that he wants people to be involved and he wants to be generous, he would, even though it would go against his real wishes. He has put females there to ensure that he will not overstep his own boundaries because they cannot go shooting. Therefore, his game is safe, except from him.
All he has to do is put them in the way of finding good husbands.
And he apologises for not being able to get any smart young men to meet them
On their first night at his house.
They're perfectly satisfied with having 2 entire strangers to meet. But because Lady Middleton and Sir John are who they are constantly collecting people around them to make up for the deficiency of their
talent and taste.
Yeah.
Lady Middleton celebrated her marriage by giving up music. She says she's very fond of it, but when Marianne plays music after dinner, she asks Marianne for a song that Marianne has just finished singing, thereby proving that she was not listening.
Who is telling us that Lady Middleton gave up music? That the songs that she brought into the family on her marriage had lain on the pianoforte that entire time? Is this a conversation that is actually happening between Lady Middleton and Mrs. Jennings? Because Mrs. Jennings does say that she played extremely well, and Lady Middleton does say she was fond of it.
No, it's the eye of God.
So the narrator?
Yeah, more or less.
I love that we can get this depth and this humour from the eye of God. She was obviously very fond of it, but she's done nothing. It's just sat there this entire time growing dust, except for the servants. Obviously, dusting. Is it false advertising of Lady Middleton to have presumably used her music as one of her talents to catch a husband and then give it up once she's married?
I think that's standard false advertising, expected for the time. Perfectly acceptable.
The way that Marianne is about music seems to be very different than other characters that we see throughout Austen. It's a joy for her and she's able to express herself. It does not seem to be purely for performance.
Oh, absolutely. She's actually musical. And we see Colonel Brandon, we meet for the first time, who is silent and grave, friend of Sir John Middleton, but unlike him. And he's the only one who's listening. He does her the honour of paying attention.
What she appreciates, but it's not the ecstatic delight that she would have, but in his advanced state of life, she can forgive him that. He is 35 and has probably outlived all the acuteness of feeling and the very exquisite power of enjoyment. This is all in Marianne's head.
Yes.
Again, it's the sort of poetic stuff that she's using, but I love that we are able to understand that this is her thoughts, even though it's not saying Marianne thought or Marianne said. She's pretty rough on the Colonel, but in comparison to the horrible insensibility of everybody else, he's okay.
She's 17, he's 35.
And she does say he's old enough to be my father. Why is it okay for Colonel Brandon to look at Marianne when her mother is only 5 years older than him. Would not that be a more appropriate match?
That is a big conversation. At this point, though, in Chapter 7, I think he's just enjoying the music and maybe being reminded of women from his past.
Ooh. Yeah, so there's secrets. There are secrets going on. His description is not great. Silent and grave, the wrong side of 5 and 30. His face was not handsome, but his countenance is sensible, and his address is gentlemanlike. He's not being set up as your classic hero, even though we know he was in the army, he's a colonel, and he has an estate, he's got good money, but no, he's just quiet and old. And I suspect he and Sir John may have served together, and that would be why they're friends.
Do we have any other indication that Sir John is a military man or has been?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe they went to school together.
It seems like Colonel Brandon went very young into the army, though. And the bonds that are formed on the battlefield tend to be lasting. So you could understand why these people with very disparate personalities could be friends.
Except Colonel Brandon's a younger son, as we will later discover.
Yes.
And Sir John Middleton, we have no indication that he's anything other than the older son. So if he was going to inherit, he wouldn't have gone into the army. I'm going to put my money on school.
Okay.
And there's nothing in the novel to prove me wrong.
Sure. But Edward is an elder son, and they talked about him potentially going in the army.
Yeah, I suppose
It's
you get bought a
confusing.
commission.
There doesn't seem to be any rules about what you do.
Well, actually, I think the trick is they want a title. The pharaohs want a title. How are you going to get a title? Military glory, one way of getting a title.
That makes sense. But because Sir John doesn't have many resources internally and likes to go shooting, I think it's possible that he might have thought it was a lark to go into the army. But we don't know.
We don't, and we'll never know. Mrs. Jennings, among other things, is described as vulgar. She teases the girls about having left a beau back at Norland, pretends to see them blush whether they did or not. It's not a very sympathetic introduction to Mrs. Jennings.
She is described as good-humoured and merry, but also as fat and elderly. How is she elderly? Neither of her daughters are yet 30. When you hit 50, are you elderly?
I'm afraid so.
Oh.
For a woman, obviously, being the dark side of 35 is not dreadful for Colonel Brandon, as it turns out. But Mrs. Jennings is old, which may explain the answer to your previous question about why is Colonel Brandon not a match for Mrs. Dashwood at 40?
Because she's too old.
She's too old. She can't have babies. Probably.
It's a really different way of looking at relationships and marriage to what we have now. We tend to focus more on the feelings that you have for each other. In some ways, I like that they're very practical. They think, do I have enough money to marry and support a family? It's a shame that that isn't considered now because people get into difficult situations. But when they're only thinking of that and whether they're capable of having babies, it feels like there's something missing.
Well, if you were to translate that into modern thinking, you would be thinking about your financial future together. Do we have enough money to reach our goals, whether it's marriage or not marriage? At this time, it's does the man have enough money? But he's building her dowry into his calculation.
I mean, it feels a little bit like Marianne would be very into the way that we do things now.
And look where that leads.
Yeah, whereas Eleanor is quite considered, do we have enough money to live on? Is this a reasonable match? It is a lot for them to meet all these new people at once, but Sir John thinks it's necessary. He's so excited to have them that he meets them at the door. It doesn't necessarily mean that the butler isn't there to open the door, but Sir John is there as well. Normally you'd go into the drawing room and be greeted there, but he's so excited. He goes there to meet them, and he's tried to get more people to come to meet them, to have a party, but it's moonlight, which presumably means it's full moon, so people are doing a lot of evening things because you can see where you're going.
Yes, so if you're taking out your carriage, it's good to plan your entertainments for full moon because the road is safer for your horses. So pretty hard to drum up an impromptu party on the full moon because everyone has already planned to go elsewhere.
Strange for Sir John to have not had something planned considering how much he loves a party. But I mean, if he knew when the Dashwoods were coming, perhaps he didn't plan so he could be there for them.
That is very likely, particularly because he wanted them to come and stay. Although he would have had a party. We like Sir John, even though he's got a total want of talent and taste and pretty much only thinks of sports. A lot of this novel is about what is of more value, kindness or good breeding, taste. And Sir John is in the kindness camp. Mrs. Jennings is in the kindness camp. We will see how that plays out, but
I like them both.
Sir John, Middleton, Mrs. Jennings. They probably get a better response from a modern audience straight away
because we don't think they're vulgar,
whereas a contemporary audience probably would not have warmed to those characters, and there's going to be more of an unfolding of those characters and their value.
They are genuinely nice people. They genuinely care about people. They don't necessarily understand what other people need. They are thinking about the things that they need and are trying to provide that for other people because, as we'll see later, they think that the Dashwood girls would want more society, but they're perfectly happy in their little family circle. And although they do want to socialise with people, they're not meeting the kind of people that they're comfortable socialising with, that they can really connect with at Barton. Mrs. Jennings has just turned up within the last hour, just turned up before dinner. Mrs. Jennings is very at home at Barton Park, and although she does have a house in London, we discover later, she spends most of her time visiting, and I wonder if that is indicating a similarity between her and Sir John. They love society and they want to be with people. I wonder if she's turned up specifically because the Dashwoods are there. She wants to get a look at the new family.
She might well.
They very quickly become part of this social circle and this life. It's September. It'll be January when they go to London with Mrs. Jennings. They have not known her for very long.
But we don't know that's going to happen. We're only in chapter 7.
I'm just thinking about how quickly things run from this first introduction. And that seems to be the way that Mrs. Jennings and Sir John are. They're very open and they include people easily. Lady Middleton, we will discover later, not so much. But that, again, doesn't happen in this chapter.
Mrs. Dashwood is also in that hasty, trusting kind of camp too, which is how those girls end up in London.
And that is our discussion of Chapter 7 of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I've been Frances Duckin. This has been Emma Dunning. Thank you for listening and we wish you happy reading. My co-host is the lovely Emma Dunning. Austen,
oh, I'm going to go for...
You don't want lovely?
I'm going to go for middle-aged electric bike enthusiast today.